From 1878 to 1968, there were 71 lake captains that called Bayview, Wisconsin, on the shore of Lake Michigan, their home. While they lived here, they captained 195 different ships, from tugboats to schooners to steamships, in voyages that took them to every one of the Great Lakes. Join us now for another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we explore not only these captains, but also their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, brought to you by the historic Bayview Lake Captains Society. Now here we discuss the ships, homes, and families of Bayview's 71 different lake captains that lived in Bayview during the Age of Steam from 1878 to 1968. Now this includes fishermen, as I've already had in some previous episodes, who were recognized as lake captains by the International Shipmasters Association. Today I'm standing in front of the home of Edward Tews, T-E-W-S, Edward G. Tews Jr., I should say. Lots of interesting things about Edward Tews. Back in 1878, if you know your history, Germany had just formed. Before that, it was a loose conglomeration of different states. There were some wars fought to consolidate it. And right after those wars, the Tews family decided to leave. Edward G. Tews Sr., Edward's father, and his five brothers, came over to America to Jones Island. Possibly the very first Germans as opposed to Prussians or Pomeranians or other ethnic groups that used to compose the previous Germany. So when they got here, they went to Jones Island. They all became fishermen. Edward G. Tews Jr. is the only one documented to have been a fishing boat captain. But it's probably the other ones were too, but I just couldn't document it. Jones Island residents were evicted right around the time of the First World War, and several of those fishermen on Jones Island came over here to Bayview to live, and they were fishermen. They continued fishing after they moved to Bayview. Now the Tews family had a lot going on. They had several fishing boats. They owned and operated 3 different fish stores throughout Milwaukee. Just to give you an idea, the 1927 directory, Milwaukee City Directory, shows 40 different fish dealers and fish stores in Milwaukee. By 1930, that number was down to, I think, 17. So it started declining. But during the Tews, T-E-W-S, Tews family reign over 3 fish stores, it was big business, and they were major players in the fishing business in Milwaukee when they lived here in Bayview. Now back to Edward G., which is the focus of this episode. He moved here in 1927, and he remained a captain until 1930, I think. And at some point in there, he took a job down in Waukegan, Illinois, working for a fish company down there. So another fisherman in Bayview. There are quite a few of them, and all of them came here, if I've got it right, all of them came here from Jones Island when they were evicted. Kind of cool. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed this episode. More details coming up from Simon Stanhope here to follow in the narration with all the slides and photos that I could find. Hope you enjoy it, and remember, hats off to our Bayview Lake captains. Bye-bye. See you in the next episode.
Welcome to another installment of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, where we discuss the lives of the 71 different lake captains that once lived in Bayview, Wisconsin, during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, in the age of sail and steam. This discussion will include their ships, their homes, their families, and their lifetime of sailing adventures on the Great Lakes. Here is the map of lake captains' homes in Bayview, to show you where this episode takes place. Its location focuses primarily on the large green arrow. Today we will be discussing the life of Captain Edward G. Tews, Jr., who was born in Germany and immigrated with his parents and 2 siblings to America in 1882. They settled on Jones Island, where Edward learned the ropes of fishing from his father and 5 uncles. Later, while still on Jones Island, Edward G. Tews, Jr. became a lake captain, captaining his own fishing tug. After the mass eviction of residents of Jones Island in about 1915, Edward G. Tews, Jr. established his own fish store on 26th Avenue in Milwaukee to sell his catch. It was one of 3 such fish stores owned and operated by the Tews family over the years. In 1927, Edward G. Tews, Jr. moved to Bayview, becoming the 7th of Bayview's 71 lake captains to move to Bayview after having been evicted from Jones Island. He remained a lake captain in Bayview until 1930, when he moved to Waukegan, Illinois, to continue as a lake captain and fisherman with a private fishing company. He died in 1939. Captain Edward G. Tews, Jr. was born on 21st September 1878 in Posen, Germany. His father, Edward G. Sr., brought wife Eva and their young family of 3 children, that included Edward's brother Emil and sister Lizzie to the USA in April 1882. They subsequently settled on Jones Island. Later children added while living on Jones Island included son William, not to be confused with the cousin of the same name, and sisters Emma, Lena, and Meta. At the same time, Edward G. Sr.'s brothers also immigrated to America as follows: Frederick, John, Louis, Ludwig, and William. They, like their brother Edward G. Sr., all settled on Jones Island and worked as fishermen, fish peddlers, and other related fishing jobs on the way to establishing 3 different fishing companies and stores with varying degrees of success. They also raised their sons in the fishing industry, working in their fish stores. Of note, 7 of Bayview's 71 lake captains came from Jones Island when they were evicted in about 1915. Edward G. Tews, Jr. was one of them, though he first moved to Milwaukee and came to Bayview later. Altogether, there were 3 Tews fish stores in Milwaukee, one of which was in Bayview. As early as 1892 and until the mid-1920s, Captain Edward G. Tews, Jr.'s uncle Frederick Tews and his sons William and George, and later other descendants, started up and operated a fish and oyster store on First Street in Walker's Point. It was named Fred Tews and Son, though other similar names were used over the years. This would be the most successful and longest-lasting of the 3 different fish stores operated by the Tews family. The second Tews fish store, and next successful, was operated by future Bayview lake captain Edward G. Tews, Jr., though the store itself wasn't in Bayview, and he wasn't living in Bayview yet when he operated it. After Jones Islanders were evicted from the island by the city of Milwaukee, beginning in about 1915, Edward Jr. followed the path of his uncle Frederick Tews by setting up his own fish dealer store on the west side of Milwaukee, on 26th Avenue, where Edward G. Jr. also lived above the shop. The 1923 Milwaukee City Directory, MCD, shows this business named as Fish, Oysters and Game. Incredibly, the 1917 MCD Business Directory lists 40 different fish dealers and fish stores in Milwaukee, though just 5 years later, in 1922, that number had dwindled to 29. The third and final fish business in the Tews family was established by Edward Jr.'s brother, Emil, though not for long. This was to be Bayview's only fish store. By comparison, the Brager family fish store had come close to being in Bayview, but was actually on the Kinnickinnic River, northwest and outside of Bayview's northern boundary of Beecher Street. Emil, initially a fisherman, had gone to work for his Uncle Frederick's fish store on First Street throughout the 1890s. In 1918 to 19, Emil started and operated a fish store located at 2315 to 17 South Howell Avenue, the site of the current Guanajuato Mexican restaurant, making him Bayview's only fish dealer to have a fish store in Bayview. Of all the Tews family of fishermen, however, Edward G. Tews, Jr. is the only one documented to have been a lake captain. He is first reported as a tug captain, its name unknown. Fishing boats were often called fish tugs, on Jones Island in 1904 at age 26. Before that, he was always a, quote, fisherman, unquote, along with brother Emil and his father Edward Sr., who was also listed as a, quote, fish peddler, unquote. After 1904, Edward G. Jr. is listed variously as lake captain, fisherman, fisher, tug captain, and fishing tug pilot through 1918. He is confirmed as captain of the fishing tug Liberty in 1911 to 12. It's possible, as captain, he brought the catch back to his Uncle Frederick's fish store, and that his father, Edward Sr., as a fish peddler, may have helped sell it. Edward G. Jr. also likely remained as captain after setting up his own fish store in 1916 on 26th Avenue in Milwaukee. In 1927, Edward Tews, Jr. moved to 2987 South Delaware Avenue in Bayview. He stayed there through 1930, and is listed as a lake captain in 1927, a pilot in 1928 and 1929, and pilot of a fishing steamer in 1930. The names of these probable fish tugs are unknown. After 1930, he left Wisconsin for Waukegan, Illinois, continuing as a fisherman and lake captain with the Clayton Fish Company. In 1903, Edward G. Tews, Jr. married wife Lily. Together they had 3 children, Edith, Ralph, and Earl. Of these, Edith became a music teacher at age 15, and at 26 was a musician in an orchestra. Which one or where is unknown. On 12th December 1939, Captain Edward G. Tews, Jr. died in Waukegan, Illinois. He was 61, the cause of death unknown. In total, he had been a fishing boat captain on the Great Lakes for 35 years. He had also been a member of the Masonic Temple on National Avenue. Wife Lily would live on for almost 30 more years, dying at age 80 in 1967. She and Edward Jr. are buried together at Forest Home Cemetery. Thanks for watching. This photograph isn't about Bayview or its lake captains, but it's from the same era of Great Lakes maritime history. We thought we'd close with it for enjoyment, as it captures the spirit of the era. If you'd like to read more details about Captain Edward G. Tews, Jr., as well as the sources for the information contained in today's video, you can find these and more in the book Bayview, Town of Lake Captains, for sale now by individual volumes on both Amazon.com and HenschelHouseBooks.com. All proceeds from book sales go to support various maritime history projects related to Bayview's lake captains. One of these is a plaque and marker with the captains' names and addresses on it as part of the creation of the Bayview Lake Captains Historic District, which will be the first of its kind in America. If you would like to contribute to support these projects, to include this and other markers honouring Bayview's lake captains, with 100% of all donations and contributions in all forms going to support them, please consider contributing to us through the listings found on our website under the Contribute button. Note, we are not a 501c3, so contributions are not tax-deductible. If, for some reason, we are unable to secure these markers, then all funds donated to this site will be given as a cash donation to the museum ship SS City of Milwaukee in Manistee, Michigan. This is the only surviving intact ship that was once captained by a Bayview lake captain, and in its case was captained by at least 2, and likely 3, totaling over 20 years between them. Finally, we also have free self-guided walking tours of Bayview's 71 lake captains' homes, using only your phone. It's simple and easy. Just go to our website, shown here, find the item on the menu bar at the upper left named Free Self-Guided Walking Tours, and then scroll down to find the map with instructions. Zoom in by street. When you find a captain's house you're interested in, click on it and details appear on the right, along with a link to the YouTube episode from this channel that provides the biography of the captain that lived there. It's free, fun, and available any time you're out walking. Just bring along your phone. I'm Simon Stanhope, narrator for these episodes. Join us again soon for the next chapter of Bayview, Town of Lake Captains.